Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. And from what I hear, it's bloomin' cold in Gauteng right now, and places like Krugersdorp and Johannesburg and Pretoria. Whoa! Oh. And with load shedding, that certainly doesn't help. Anyway, our thoughts are with you guys in South Africa with the cold. I got to say, here in Australia, it's a lot warmer, a whole lot warmer. Now, tonight I'm speaking to Tewie Wessels, who is a farmer in South Africa, and he's come up with an idea that he thinks could help people. And we're going to be talking about that idea tonight. And let me get Tewie on so we can get the show on the road. Hi, Tewie.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Excellent, thank you. Can you just turn your camera on?
I'll turn my camera on.
Perfect. Now, while you're doing that, Tewie, you live in the Harrismith area.
Yes,
And
I live in the Harrismith area.
yeah, and
Close to Horden in the Eastern Free State.
right. It must be friggin' cold there at the moment, because I believe it's freezing cold up in Gauteng.
Yes, it's definitely very cold here at this moment. You can just look at the beanie and the jacket. It's quite thick. It is, I guess, the last time I've about 8 degrees at this moment, so it's cold.
Wow.
7, I think it's 7 now.
Wow, it is cold. Now, Tewie, you've made a bit of an impact on social media in recent months, and in particular in Facebook. Do you want to give people a bit of background to how you got involved in social media and what's happening, what your plans are? Over to you.
Okay. Okay, so it all started the 16th of December 2022. So me and a few friends have met up and we start talking. And they asked me, Tewie, why don't you go out there and share your opinion? We like your opinion. We think you have a quite interesting way of looking at things. And I said, I've never thought about that before because I'm quite shy before people. I can't speak very well before people. For instance, on my brother's wedding a few years ago, I couldn't make a toast. I started to stutter, and yeah, that's a big thing. And English is another thing for me as well. So I've actually learned to speak English a lot better in the last couple of months, intentionally. So yeah, and I realized if I want to see a difference, I need to be that difference. And I think there's so many people out there that want to stand up and say, listen here, this is what we want to see. But the big problem is not enough of us is heard on the outside. Just certain voices are heard at this moment, and all other voices are blocked out. And I think that is one of the biggest problems. So I want to be a voice for those that are voiceless at this moment, and also want to inspire others to start the same journey as I did. As I am just a regular Joe, I'm a farmer. I was totally overweight, unfit, not ready for the times to come a few years back. And yeah, I've made a change. So my message is you can be the change. You need to be the change if you want to see the change.
Right. Okay. And getting onto social media and sort of having a look around the internet and seeing what's happening there has basically opened your eyes as to opportunities, which we'll have a look at in a second. Now, first off, tell us about the current situation in South Africa when it comes to employment, the situation with retrenchments in your area. What's actually happening in your part of the Free State?
Okay, so one interesting thing that I've learned the other day is abattoir in Harry Smith is closing down. A lot of people are being retrenched, and it is and because the abattoir can't run because of the high fuel prices, and because they need to burn diesel for 8 to 10 hours a day to keep them in business and to keep them afloat. And if they look at the diesel and fuel bill, it is not. They just can't do it anymore. And there's another abattoir in Bethlehem that has done the exact same thing. They have closed their doors. And there's also a lot of people that are being retrenched. So the other day, I have sold some cattle to them. It's actually a very well-known company, big company. And yes, one of the workers asked for work because they said, we are out of work. It has been happening coming for a few months now. First, 6 or 8 months back, they retrenched a few people, and then another few. And just a few weeks ago, they came to us and said, we are closing down. We can't continue like this. And that is another thing. In the farming industry at this moment, commodity prices are at an all-time low. For instance, meat prices. It's definitely at this moment not profitable, and a lot of farmers are letting people go. And another thing, in the coming season, it's going to be very difficult to get your money if you want to plant crops, because the input costs has gone up so much. Everything has doubled, but the prices that a farmer is receiving has basically halved, or very close to half.
Wow. And what about the theft issue? I believe there's a huge amount of theft or stock theft taking place in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah, that is rampant at this moment. So I think a lot of times people are always talking about farm murders and the gruesome farm murders. That is out of hand. But a lot of people are also looking at the problem of stock theft, overlook that problem, because it is extremely out of hand at this moment. There is no use for some farmers even calling the police. We just realize, okay, 10 sheep was stolen, let it be. I will try to search for them myself. If I can't find them, the police won't find them, because I've reported the last 15 cases and never once found one sheep. And that is a thing that is very troublesome at this moment. So a lot of these cases aren't being reported, especially close to Lesotho, close to Kwakwa. For instance, the farmers near Vicksburg and Leibrand in that areas are really suffering in so much that they cannot farm any further. A lot of them are just leaving the farms, and you cannot sell your farm because nobody wants it. For instance, if the cattle is stolen and they took it over the border, you cannot retrieve it. There's nothing you can do about it. The police will literally say, okay, this is your cattle, but I cannot retrieve it. There's too much red tape for that. So you need to go and retrieve it yourself. And a lot of times, gangs from Lesotho is coming over and shot at farmers and, burned their houses down. So it's really a war zone. And the media is silent about this.
Wow. Well, I heard that Ramaphosa is setting up a committee to look into farm attacks and farm murders, or apparently he's been sort of thinking about it. This is about 10 years too late. One of the fellows we support on Loving Life is a fellow by the name of Petrus Sito. I don't know if you've heard of Petrus, but he's a black fellow, and he's walking around South Africa with a couple of mates, exposing the farm murder, farm attack issues, and he's done an amazing job, and does it on a shoestring.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to talk about Ramaphosa. So all of their investigations, I have no confidence in that. They are doing it to buy themselves time, and after it's just quite the same with the Pala incident. Everything will be swept under the rug, and it's very possible for them at this moment to do that. So I have no confidence that will help us at the moment. So yes, it is quite a few years overdue, but we in South Africa have lost all our confidence in law enforcement. We have lost all our confidence. And that we have been proven right time after time after time. So if we do not save ourselves at this moment, nobody is coming to save us. And I think that's something that is really, that needs to be repeated to a lot of people. We cannot trust the system at this moment to help us. We need to help ourselves.
Yeah, well, I know in some townships they have what's called mob justice, where because the police don't do anything, they just go and take out people who are causing trouble in the community. The community does that. But what I find very disturbing, TV, is that if a white farmer in South Africa defends himself when he's been attacked on his farm, and let's say he shoots one of the attackers, it's amazing how the fake mainstream media in South Africa bring that up as a huge issue. The farmers shouldn't be doing this, etc., etc., etc. But when it comes to the farm attacks and farm murders, it's like they are not happening. That the fake mainstream media don't go near that, except I think for South Africa Today News, which is one of the online publications that we actually are partners with on Loving Life TV. And for people who don't know Loving Life TV, every day we put up on our platform, and I'll drop the website address here in the side chat. If you register there, you can get our daily email, which has got a huge amount of South African and international news, and we also talk about things that are happening around the globe, like the World Economic Forum, nefarious things that are taking place, which, a lot of people don't understand about that. Now, okay, we've talked about that the meat price has been down. We've talked about abattoirs closing in Harrismith. We've talked about the problem of stock theft. All these things are and farmers leaving the farm. All these things are going to lead to an issue with food security in the future, aren't they?
Yes, that's definitely something very worrisome. And the main problem that I've been identifying now over the last couple of months, a real threat, is that there may be food in the as food stores available. For instance, meat and maize in the silos. But in grain storage at local grain, what do you call it? What do you call coöperatives in English? Okay, it doesn't matter.
Corporations.
Askies?
Corporations.
Corporations, yes.
Yeah.
For farmers, yes, for farmers. But the main thing we need to realize, there's a real possibility that food won't make it to the shelves. That food, because the infrastructure is collapsing everywhere around us. So that food may be there. But in the end, the people that are waiting for it and that is in need of it will not receive it. So that is something very scary at this moment. Because, for instance, if abattoirs are closing down, who's going to slaughter the cows in the end?
Yeah.
You understand the problem?
Yeah.
Because this is abattoirs that has been around for the last couple of 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And there's no new infrastructure built or invested in. So we're going to reach a tipping point where there is food available, but there's enough food produced, but the consumers are not going to receive it. And that is something that is very scary for me to just think about it.
Yeah, the ramifications of the load shedding are huge, and I think this is something people don't really understand. You made the point that that abattoir is closing down because of load shedding. It's not because they don't have a market. It's just because they've then got to use diesel, which is terribly expensive. And if they do it that way, the meat prices will just go. They'll probably double overnight, won't they?
Yes, they will double overnight for the consumer, but not for the producer. That is the big problem, because there's enough meat in the market. And that is a very worrisome trend at this moment. Because if you look at a small business, if you have to run a generator a certain amount of hours a day, and actually the outlook of load shedding is just has worsened over the couple of months. They have already warned about phase 10 possible. That's a possibility. So the main thing we need to realize here, that's about one worker's salaries. If you are a small business owner and you have to run a 5.5 kVA generator, petrol generator, I've worked out that that's about one worker's salary per month. So the only thing that you need to do, if you are a small business owner, you maybe only have 1 or 2 employees. You need to let one of them go. But then you're already stretched. So yeah, it's very difficult at this moment for everybody. And especially for small scale farmers, especially for middle farmers of that is in the middle round. I think the mega farmers are coping a bit better. And also big businesses are coping better because their pockets are a lot deeper. And that's the problem, because banks are definitely not going to lend more money, because they are realizing this is a dangerous road that we're on. And there's a big possibility that these farmers or these small business owners aren't going to be able to pay us back, because they have their own economic forecasters, and they have told them, listen here, there's a possibility that we can go to 10. And that's about how long? That's about 10 hours a day. No electricity, about plus minus. So yeah, that's a big issue at the moment.
Well, look, and what actually exacerbates that issue, TV, is the fact that Eskom. I don't know what Eskom's case is, but they're trying to stop farmers in KwaZulu-Natal using their own electricity, which they're doing because of the load shedding issues. They're trying to stop those farmers from actually producing electricity, which is going to really harm their ability to actually provide food on the table. Have you heard anything about that, or do you know anything about the background when it comes to Eskom trying to stop farmers producing electricity to keep their irrigation systems going and so on?
Yes, I definitely heard about that. But here in Frankfurt, that's a town about 100
Yes.
kilometers from me.
Yeah.
The local rural is the local power supplier, and they actually have this huge solar panel farm that's putting electricity back into Eskom, and because of that, they are about, I think, 3 phases better on load shedding. So the people of Frankfurt, or of the town Frankfurt, actually are very happy about this. And Eskom has gone and said, no, this is illegal. You need to be on the same load shedding roster than all of us, and we don't want your electricity. And it's the same with the farmers. So that is something strange, and that's another thing that I want to point out. And Ramaphosa and all of the government officials are aware of this fact. Numerous people have written to them. It has been everywhere in the newspaper. There have been made numerous videos about this, and they have done nothing to rectify this. Even though Ramaphosa said about 6 to 8 months ago, not even that long, 3 months ago, in Parliament, that people that are making it easier so that people can put electricity back into the grid. And they have done nothing. So yes, just another example of kakistocracy, where the poorest quality of people are in government of a country.
Isn't that a beautiful word? Kakistocracy. I I think that really just sums up the ANC government perfectly. Now, look.
Yes, definitely. That is. Sorry.
Yeah, just getting back to. I mean, you're a frontline farmer, if I can put it that way. You're a farmer. You're in Harrismith. You're in an area where there is crime. You're like on the front line in a war. Now, what are other farmers that you interact with in Harrismith area, that sort of part of the Southern Free State? Well, what are they saying about their futures? Are they talking about leaving the farm or leaving the country?
Leaving the country, no, because at this stage it is impossible for most people. But leaving the farms, yes. A lot of farmers are just going out and renting their land to mega farmers. So mega farmers has really took over the last couple of years.
Wow.
I can't tell you how many small farmers are in a very dire situation, and mega farmers are taking everything over here, and that is something very sad, because there's a statistic that in 1892, 98% of all Afrikaners in the Transvaal and Orange Free States were in agriculture in some way or another, from the blacksmith to the farmer, were in agriculture. And today, it's about 28,000 farmers, commercial farmers, white farmers still in South Africa. If you think about 28,000, that number is steadily declining over the years. So we are going to go to a point, and I think Agri-SA has already talked about this, where there's about 5,000 farmers left. But a big problem is a lot of these mega farmers are working with government. That's why they're so able to be so successful. And because of that, and the government are not interested in small scale farmers. We don't have contacts, and we do not want to work with them in anyhow. But a lot of farmers are just rolling over, and especially big farmers. That's a very sad fact, and they are giving government away. And I think that is something very troublesome for all of us in the farming industry.
Absolutely.
At this moment.
Now, just on that point, I read an article just last week where the ANC government are saying to the large commercial farmers that if they don't have 75% black ownership, they will not get their water licenses to actually irrigate their lands. Now that's a new development. Amongst the farmers, have you spoken to other people about this, and what's their response to this?
They think it would not pass because of a lot of lawsuits that guys like AfriForum is bringing on and so forth. But they're very angry about it. Just the mere fact that the government is threatening them in this way. Another thing in South Africa, we have very good laws, but the implementation of these laws by law enforcement, the enforcement of these laws are very weak. So I think a lot of farmers on the ground are thinking, I don't think they will be able to enforce these laws. There are so many laws at this moment which are not being enforced. And I think this might be one of them. But, and this is a big but, there is so many front companies and ways that certain people are working to try and work around the BEE, even the 50% partnership thing. So yeah, I think some very smart men out there are already thinking about this, that there is some ways to try and sidestep this. But again, that's only the huge guys, the mega farmers. The regular Joe, it's going to be extremely difficult, that's for sure. Especially if they've already picked up on you and they're starting checking you. And bribery, again, this is another problem, something that's coming in here. If you know somebody in a certain place, a lot of your problems can go away. And for us that are against this, that will say, no, I will not pay. I want what is just. That's a real difficult time to live in South Africa. That is something I think a lot of people are suffering on at this moment. If you want to be noble, if you want to be a man of your word, it is really difficult to make ends meet because your neighbor might not do that. And yeah, that's something, and he's coming to buy your farm. So what are we going to do? It is this classic saying that I have a lot of times mentioned to my fellow farmers. It goes something like this. If my farm is safer than yours, if I watch my sheep better than yours, I do not have to, if it's more difficult to steal my sheep, I do not have to worry about my sheep because they're coming for yours. And I think that is a bit of the problem at this moment. We are not working together. We are rather trying to solve these problems that we're having individualistic. And that is the real problem.
Right. Now, what I'm getting from our discussion tonight is that there's a huge disconnect between the money farmers get for food and the prices that people are paying at the supermarkets. Because between you delivering the food and it actually appearing in packaging on the supermarket shelves, that the food price just goes hugely up. Has this actually got worse over the years, or is it the same percentage? Do you have any sort of facts or figures on that?
Okay, so yeah, this is something very interesting. It has always been like that because we need to realize something. For instance, Denmark, a milking company that's producing yogurt and milk and so on, that are buying it from our farmers here. The problem is a lot of their stuff milk products goes bad. And the shops are just going to send that back to them. So it is a loss that Denmark is going to take. So that's something we need to realize. So at this moment, C-grade cow is about 45 Rand a kilogram on the hook. That is a slaughtered weight. 45. You need to really think about it. So if a cow's are 200 k's on the hook, slaughtered, that's about 9,000 Rand. But if you're going to rework that same mathematical equation to what it will cost in the supermarket, and not even in a supermarket, at your local butchery, which is a lot cheaper than a supermarket. So it's about 18,000. I have actually done the math on this. It's about 18,000 if I go and buy piece for piece at my local butchery. And my local butchery really is not overly badly priced, I have to tell you. So it can be something 22,000 maybe in the supermarket. But here's the big problem. In the past, we hadn't really had a load shedding issue. So a lot of fresh produce are going bad at this moment,
Yeah.
like never before. So what they are doing, they are saying, yes, we cannot afford to cut our price because where in the past 50% of our fresh produce, meat, milk, etc., was spoiled, and we need to take the loss on that. Now it's 50%. And on top of that, the consumers don't have a lot of money to spend. So now they're saying, you know what? We're going to cut your price by 20% because that is our loss. And we're going to keep the price on the supermarket shelf exactly the same, or we're going to increase it maybe by 10% or something like that. And that is the big problem. Because of load shedding, this gap has actually increased a lot. This gap of what the producer are receiving and what a supermarket needs to ask. It was always quite unequal, but at this very stage, because of load shedding and because of fresh produce going so bad, and it's the same with the Joburg fresh produce market. It doesn't matter if you're a carrot farmer, if you're in dairy, if you're in meat, everyone. For instance, VKB, that couldn't produce a maize meal a few weeks ago because when load shedding comes on, the electrical current aren't correct and it actually burnt all the machines, and that has happened twice.
Wow.
And for a few days they were offline, and now they are making some other contingency plans, I don't know what, and this is exactly the type of thing. So they're going to put that loss through to the consumer. And that is, and not through to the consumer necessarily, but to the producer. That is the problem we're having.
Right. Okay. Just to summarize what you were saying there, let's take hypothetically a farmer gets 9,000 rand for a 200 kilo dead weight on a hook for a cow, let's say. That same meat in the supermarket will be sold for double that price at 18,000 rand. That's where it's actually chopped up into the little pieces. So what's actually happening is between that hooked 200 cow deadweight being put into the supermarket, 9,000 rand has been added onto the price. Now, because of the load shedding issues, what the supermarkets are saying to the abattoirs or the farmers, the actual producers, is we're not going to pay you 9,000 rand anymore because we're losing more of that meat because of load shedding. We're going to reduce the amount we pay you for each cow. Let's use that 200 kilo cow again, to say 7,000 rand. So the farmer who's got to buy all the feed, raise the cattle, he's been gouged. He's basically been screwed, and on top of everything else, he's got to face stock theft and all the other things that are going on. That's an untenable situation for farmers, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And the competition in the farming industry are quite tenacious at the moment. Because everybody are trying to open up a new market. Everybody are realizing we are in trouble. So, for instance, if you have a contract with Woolworths and you have a problem with your price, they will just say, we're going to give it to the next guy, the contract to the next guy. If we cut our price by 10 or 15%, even if it was stipulated differently in the contract, because they always have a backdoor some backdoor, we're just going to give it to another guy. Sorry about this. And you just have to be content with that. But if you're a smaller scale farmer, you have absolutely no choice. Because with whom are you going to take it up with? If you have 10 or 20 or 30 calves to sell, or even 50, who are you going to take it up with? Nobody cares about your 50 calves. So you have absolutely no say. And that's the main thing why I say the bigger farmers at this moment are, I guess, more profitable of this, and they make it really difficult for smaller farmers. And unfortunately, I have to tell this, I feel that certain people that are supposed to be there for the farmer are actually pushing only the agenda of the big farmers, of the mega farmers at this moment, simply because of the fact they are the guys that have the money, they are the guys that pays pays the best and are really making it for this, for Agri-SA and such guys, feasible to stay open. The small guy doesn't have a choice. He just goes along kind of. And I think that's really a problem. Some guys aren't at this moment being represented. And I guess that's a problem that all of us in South Africa is facing, because I'm not being represented. Koos and Jan and San, nobody is being represented at this moment because the government are against us. The media, like you have pointed out before, are against us. The mainstream media are definitely against us. They are not going to talk about this stuff. The only reason sometimes I think they talk about farm murders because it's sensational. A lot of people will buy maybe the newspaper or read story because it's really tragic and they're feeding on this. But they are trying to willfully painting a rosy picture about South Africa sometimes. No, it's not so bad here. It's really nice. And I've seen this quite a lot of times. Because people are tired of hearing how bad things are going. Because if you are in a difficult situation, you are already knowing you are in a difficult situation. So you don't want to open a newspaper and read about all the problems and everything that's so bad. So a lot of these things are being swept under the rug that people from the outside aren't even aware of this. Because people are really not trying to speak about the negative, because everything in your life at this moment is negative. For instance, if I had to go out tonight to watch, to do my rounds, my safety rounds, let's say to look if my livestock are safe, something can happen. I all the time need to be ready. And close to the towns, farmers cannot plant maize anymore, because all the maize are being stolen. So they are now planting soybeans and stuff like that. But that's also, you can't plant soybeans year after year after year on the same land.
Yeah.
So that's another big problem that we're not even touched on.
Yeah. Now look, to me the elephant in the room, and we've talked about this quite a few times with different guests during this year, is the banks, the liquidation industry, the auctioneer houses, and the lawyers. Because my understanding, I was watching a carte blanche video which talked specifically about the farming community, and apparently the land bank is foreclosing on farmers, small farmers in particular, because of relatively small debts compared to the assets they've got. And what they're doing to these farmers, they're basically saying, look, you've got to pay your debt within 14 days or we're going to wind you up. And this has now been going on apparently for the last 6 months in South Africa. Have you had any farmers who've faced similar issues?
No, not that I know of with land bank. I've heard about it. A lot of guys that are really complaining about it. And I think, if I'm correct there, if I'm not mistaken, there was a lawsuit about this. I don't know what was the outcome, if it's still ongoing. And that's another thing in South Africa. Everything is so slow. If you need to wait for everything to follow procedure, and it takes a lot of time, and you don't have time. That is one thing we need to realize. We don't have time. You cannot wait for 12 months or 2 years or even 3 years for a lawsuit to be finalized, because you still need to be farming, and now you cannot. And so this will definitely be your death sentence, even if it wasn't before. And I think that's a lot of time how things are going in South Africa. With Eskom, it's quite the same. So earlier years, I remember, Eskom was on the ball. Even this is 10 years ago. If I've called them, for instance, about power failure, any time at night, they will respond within a few hours. But now, they do not respond at night, only in the day. And sometimes it can take days. So if a home has, if the line is off somewhere on a farm, all of the farming community, nobody will have power for a few days, because Eskom won't come out. So I have solar power at this moment.
Yeah.
Not a very big system, but still adequate enough to meet my needs. So I do not worry much about Eskom. But for instance, my line as broke. So there was a short circuit. The field it's nearly started the fire. So I've called them and said, yes, here's something big. Here's trouble. So what I've done a day or what later, they've sent out somebody. And all that he has done is he has switched the power off a few kilometers away from my home and just left everything else, the line, the poles, everything just like that on the ground and has left. And that's something that would have never happened before. And the same with Telkom. They just abandoned all the infrastructure and just left. Just like that. They just left. And yeah, we don't know if Eskom can continue at this current situation, fixing in the rural areas the power for long, the electricity, keep it on for long. Because if one farmer, for instance, to give him electricity and there's a big storm or lightning strikes, they need to send out somebody to keep the poles and the lines in working condition. And they just don't want to do it anymore.
But the other problem there is that people who steal cables, you know, if your electricity isn't working, they can quite safely go up the pole, cut the line, steal the entire cable between you and your farm, and you know, sell it somewhere, and then you're really in trouble because your connection's gone.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely the truth, and that's why I always said we need to start upstanding. We need to stand up for ourselves at this moment, and we need to make our voices heard. Especially if you're white, you need to make your own voice heard, because at this moment, just being white, if you just say I'm proud to be white, that is considered taboo. That is, how can you do that? That means you're a racist. You hate everybody else, and they will go on and on and on and on. But everybody else can say, hey, I'm proud to be what I am. I'm proud to be a Zulu. I'm proud to be black. I'm proud to be whatever. But we are not. And so now at this moment, we need somebody else to stand up, a black man, for instance, and say, hey, I'm standing up for white people. But I think that's something else we need to consider and really start doing. We need to stand up for ourselves, every man and woman. And I've proven this because I'm not capable of speaking in front of people, and now I am. You can make a change. You need to make your own voice heard, and you need to stand up for yourself. And you need to say, hey, I'm proud, I am here, and this is what I want. Because you see, in our culture, the Boers and Afrikaners have something very interesting that we always do. The moment we hate politics. We are not for politics. The moment politics get involved, we are like, hey, we're just going to leave. And we are not going to vote. And I do not say voting is the solution in this instance, but we cannot show apathy at our situation at this moment. We need to get involved some way or another. And this is exactly my idea with Vaderland.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to Vaderland now. But before we do, we've been basically talking about the shit that is hitting South Africa. I mean, the shit has really hit the fan in South Africa big time in so many different ways. And I think people who were sort of like feeling quite comfortable and I'm okay, Jack sort of thing, are suddenly finding they're now caught up in the mess. And I think I don't think there's anybody watching tonight from South Africa who wouldn't concur with what we've been talking about. In other words, the issues that this ANC government have caused to happen in the country. So we're in trouble. What can people in South Africa do to stay afloat in these testing times?
That's a very good question, and that's quite a worrying question, because everybody are trying to stay afloat. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people that have lost it all, that are in shelters or just before shelters, because they are there is no work. That is the truth. it is near impossible to find a work, especially if you are white in South Africa at this moment. And like we all know, there's this new laws they are trying to propose. So it's even going to make the problem much worse. So we need to realize we need to keep people from going to the shelter. For once you have lost it all, the possibility of you standing up is close to zero. I've seen this so many times. Once you're part of the system, it's very extremely difficult to come out of it. And over the last year or so, I've heard so many times people tell me it all started with COVID. I've lost everything during COVID. But we are currently, then after COVID, things improve a bit, and there wasn't as many new job losses, but suddenly, in the last couple of months, on the ground, things have changed again. Suddenly, it is as if we're in a COVID situation again. Suddenly, job losses are everywhere. And I think this new law that the government is proposing is exactly to try and solve that, because they know who are voting for them. So they are going to try and take everybody out and maybe improve their own situation through giving some people jobs that was beforehand. For instance, let's say a white man's job. Now that man is fired, so maybe a black man can be hired, so the ANC's problem will be solved that way. I think that's their way of thinking in this. And so the best way, I think, to try and solve this is to try and stay in the position that you're currently in. Don't let yourself fall to a position that you have nothing left. Because in our current situation, it's damn near impossible to get out of that. Another thing is South Africa's shelters. There is quite enough food, just enough food for the shelters in South Africa. But where the real problem is, there hasn't been an increase in their capacity. So now there's a lot of people that have lost everything and they have no place to go. So they end up in this informal squatter camps. And I think that is a big problem. So you can't let yourself go there. What we can do about it, that is another thing. But I think the most important thing is now we need to keep the people that are still in there. They need to hang on. I don't know for how long, because things are probably going to get worse before they're getting better. But we need to hang on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, you've got an idea that you've come up with, which is, you believe, a solution to many of the things we've talked about. And this is an online shop called Vaderland. Do you want to tell us what is behind this idea and how people can get involved?
Okay. So first off, over the last couple of years, I've really met some people that are extremely talented. For instance, somebody that are making knives or the best, very good quality leather produce. And I've realized that these people do not have a market because they are trying to sell it, but nobody is knowing about it. So I would rather go to a big chain store like Woolworths and go and buy a belt there. But maybe if I've known about Pete, who's producing the exact same quality, this guy is really talented. I've really seen this. But nobody knows about him. So it's all about convenience at the moment, I think, for a lot of people, especially the people that still have a bit of capital, a bit of money left to go out. They want convenience. And trying to search for somebody to buy their stock, that is extremely difficult because you are going to have to go through 20 guys that are making leather products to find one that is to your taste. That is the problem. So my plan is, so at first it was an idea. We need to get these people to the market. And with everything that has changed over the last couple of years, online shopping has become, even in South Africa, a very real thing. It's much more easy, and a lot of people are willing to take it, to try it, who has never before tried it. So that's where I've started. I want to be, if you will remember, I've said I want to be a voice for the voiceless. And I think also I want to use my voice to try and help a few people with the produce and sell it. So, of course, this will need to be run as a business because it needs to be profitable because a lot of time are going into it. But the profits need to be as such just to make yourself, to make it possible for yourself to put your time and your money in this project. So this is basically my plan. So I have received 600 plus products. I am really shocked about how viral this video that I've sent out has gone. I've really out 600 products, and I'm currently working through them. And my plan at this moment is first identifying, because funds is a real issue, first identifying 20 of the best products. And buying, and what's making this platform different is there's a lot of platforms that are doing the same thing. But what they are doing is the producer will put his product, his or her product, on their webpage and will receive their money once it is sold. But I will not do it like this because I vetted the people. I know what how the quality of the product. I will buy the product from them beforehand, and I will sell it. For instance, let's say with a small profit, to make it possible to continue and giving my time for this, and also paying a few people to help me with this. So they have their capital, they have their money, and now they can start producing again. Beforehand, they need to wait for their product to be sold, get their money, and start from scratch. And now a month later, they bring in some new products, and so on and so forth. But I want to change that. And this could literally be with anything.
Right. Now, launching any new business is problematic because there are always little hiccups and things that you haven't actually considered. And one of the issues I would see with an online shopping cart type website is the load shedding issue and Eskom. Because if the lights go out, it's all over Red Rover, isn't it?
It's all over for all of us, I guess. If the lights go out permanently, or there's power, the grid failure, it's for all of us, I guess. So I think in the meantime, because this will probably happen, we are looking down the abyss, and there's a lot of people at this moment trying to maybe sidestep the problem and believe that there can still be a chance. But I foresee that the ANC will be in power with the EFF, which is even worse, till 2029 at least. So we need to realize we still have a lot of time. We have some years to go. That is the problems. So we can't just wait and say, maybe the power grid, there will be a failure and it's all over. Maybe it can happen in a year. Maybe it can happen in 2 years. Maybe it will happen in 4 years. But in the meantime, what can I do?
Yeah.
So if something happens, it's so drastic that everything is just imploding in South Africa within the next year, that's fine. Maybe you have helped a few people to stay afloat because, like I've said before, we need to help the people that are still able to be helped, who haven't fallen so far. So I think this is one of the biggest ideas of this platform.
Right. But what's been your biggest hurdle so far then?
I think this is the biggest hurdle for any business, and that is capital, because I really wanted to, out of my own pocket, to try and finance this thing, even if it starts small, because like I've said before, I try to motivate people. For instance, I was overweight. I have changed it where I'm today. I was shy. I've changed that. And the same thing maybe with this platform. I've heard numerous times people say to me, "Hey, Tewie, thanks. You really made a difference to me." And if it's just one person, I'm really proud. I'm glad it's been all worthwhile. And the same with this platform. I want people to think to themselves, wow, Tewie is doing this. even if it's small scale, even if it's not the best idea, even if it's not doing as great at that moment. They're thinking, he's doing something, what can I do? And if everyone is thinking that, if you are willing, I can promise you there will be a big change. So that is one of the ideas of to be an example, to motivate people. And I also do think because a lot of people want to help, but they do not want to give a $10 or $20 or $50 to a homeless person in the street because they know they're going to buy alcohol or cigarettes, and it's not going to the children as it should be. So now you can actually help somebody, and you can have something in return. You can buy something that you maybe need, and you can get something as well, a product as well. And I think that is the great thing. So I think the sky is the limit. This idea can really go very big.
Yeah.
But everything has to start small. I think even Elon Musk, the other day, talked about it. He never thought Tesla would be as big as it was. He said there was a time he really thought that it could fail. It was small. He said he really didn't have money to start it, and he didn't know if it will be successful. And just look at it now.
Yeah.
I think every idea is that. But at this moment, finances are my biggest problem, especially since the meat prices, and I'm mainly a livestock farmer, fallen so much, and I need to finance it myself. Yeah, it has really put a damper on it. So I really hope this is a seasonal thing, and it will change for the better in the coming months. So I've postponed my idea for about 3 months.
Right. Now, I'm going to ask you to look into the future in a second when it comes to South Africa and what's happening around the world. But before I do, I've got a question here from one of our viewers, and this is from Shavesh. And he says, I heard a story of Woolworth and even Macro had some complaints months back about meat that had chemical from their suppliers, and the person was bribed and they paid the customer 60,000 Rand to keep quiet. And he goes on to say, ask Tewie, does the meat have preserving process, and is there some meat suppliers that put chemicals into meat that can damage our health?
That is a real possibility, I guess. That is a real possibility. So that's why you need to really buy from somebody that you know. And that is maybe all the more the reason that you should try and get to know your local farmers. A lot of people have talked about that. You need to try and cut out the middleman. Because like I've just told you, if a cow is, for instance, 10,000 or 9,000, and you and your friends go to the farm and say, hey, you know what? We'll give you 10, but we only want, we are 4, so we're going to split it amongst ourselves. That's a great idea. The farmer are winning, you are winning. So I really need to we really need to go to that. That's kind of a homesteading idea, where a close-knit community are buying from each other. So you really need to get to know. There's in every big city and town a farmer's market nowadays. That is something that's springing up everywhere. So yeah, that's a real possibility, unfortunately. I believe some people might try and do that. Some big supermarkets or, yeah.
Right. Okay, now let's turn our faces to the future. What do you think, or how do you see the future in South Africa, keeping in mind the BEE laws and load shedding and stuff like that? Where do you see South Africa going?
Where do I see South Africa going? Okay, I think in the short term, things are really looking bleak. And I think this is year where a lot of people are really losing it. They are seeing a very, very bleak short term, and we need to be honest about that. The coming year are going to be extremely tough. Coming few years maybe. In the medium term, it's quite about the same situation, because for some things to change in life, some drastic things need to happen. And we all know if there is to be a government change in South Africa, something drastic is going to need to happen for such drastic thing to take place in the or starting to take place in the first place. So in the middle, at the medium and short term, things are bleak, and I have to be honest about it. But still, I believe the future is bright because we have been through so much before. We can just think about the Anglo-Boer War, for instance. We can think after the 30s about the arm blanke vraagstuk.
The Great Depression.
That is loosely translated into the poor white people.
Yeah.
Yes, after the Great Depression. Everybody was dirt poor in South Africa.
Yeah.
But everything turned around quite fast. So we have been very low before. And Germany, for instance, after the Second World War or the First World War, they were dirt poor. There was nothing left in that country. Everyone was blown to bits. There was no jobs. But things can turn around in a short period of time. So the first thing I think we need to realize is, I think we are entitled at this moment. We think, oh, this is the most difficult times that we as a people has ever faced. And I think you are mistaken. Our forefathers has actually been through much more difficult times than we have been. And once you realize there's suddenly hope. Hey, we can stand up from this. We can build from this. There can be a change. So yeah, that is my take for the future. If you want to, do you want to maybe me giving you exact details of what I think are going to happen? That is a bit difficult. For instance, I believe the ANC government can't go on forever as at this moment. But I also believe that a DA-led government are definitely not as rosy as people might think, because they are willing to make concessions, and concessions that we as a God-fearing people, for instance, aren't willing to go with. And that everything has pros and cons, but yeah, that's my take on the future, more or less.
Right. Okay. Well, look, I just want to mention something that I did yesterday. And I went to school at a boarding school in South Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal, called Michaelhouse. And I see now that with these new laws that they're bringing in the education department, they're going to make it compulsory for children as young as 5 years old, right across the country, private and public schools, to be taught comprehensive sexual education, which includes the suggestion that if you're a boy and you think that you're a girl, then you can be a girl. This is crazy shit that they're actually talking about bringing in South Africa. Now, you take a situation like a boarding school like Michaelhouse that I went to, teaching that shit in the school where the motto is "Quit you like men." And you've now got a class where they're saying to these boys, hey, you might actually be a woman. I mean, this is the kind of impacts that are happening in our education system through people like the Open Society Foundation, who are basically pushing this and who play a huge role over our government, when it comes to policy. How do you think that's going to go down in South Africa?
I think we are, and that is an interesting thing, even in the black communities, even in the colored communities, are extremely against this, and it's being pushed down everybody's throat. And I think this is a big problem for us going forward, because there are a real possibility that they will be successful. If you look at what happened overseas, for instance, in Canada, at this moment, they have been successful. That's exactly what are being enforced in the Western world, what the children in the Western world are being taught. Now they are enforcing South Africans to do it as well. So I think first and foremost, it might be they might be able to enforce it. But the main reason for that being is the fact that the DA, for instance, are in a bit of a conundrum. What are they going to do? Because they are openly supporting of this idea. They are openly supporting of, let's call it, a new world order. They are openly supporting the idea, but they are going to lose a tremendous amount of support amongst all racial groups if they go to support it. So they need to stand against it, and in a way that goes against everything they are standing for, because that is the agenda at this moment that is being pushed upon us. And I'm telling you, they are pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing. And maybe that's a good thing, because if you push long enough, a person are going to be pushed into a corner. And from there on, you cannot push him any further. And I think in South Africa, we are currently not far away from, we cannot take it anymore. And we have been hearing this from a lot of people. So yeah, they might bring it on, but I'm definitely sure that a lot of people, good people, are going to fight this bill that they are trying to force upon us. But we need to realize something. It is not necessarily the courts or protest action or anything like this that will keep this bill away. The ANC fears one thing more than anything else, and that's losing power and making more people angry at them. Then already everybody is already angry at them, but even more people. And that is something I think they're overplaying their hand with. For instance, the idea that I want to take farms, it has been quite down over the last couple of years. It was a big talking point last year, and suddenly nothing is being said about that, because they have seen how much backlash there have been. So everybody needs to speak out against this bill as well.
Yeah. Okay, look, I've got one final question for you, TV, and I think it's really something that we all need to think about, and it's something we talk about a lot on my own platform, which is lovinglifetv.com, and that is where the world is going. And there are two things happening right now that most people who haven't watched my platform before are probably not aware of. And probably one of the biggest is this rollout of a central bank digital currency. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I've heard about that.
Okay, now this, just for those who don't know, the central bank digital currency will replace the cash that you got in a bank account, and it'll be basically an application on your mobile phone where you'll be able to buy stuff using this digital currency, which will, you won't have your traditional banks like FNB and all the other banks, or Nedbank and so on. What you'll have is just the central bank being your bank. So the whole banking system is going to change under a central bank digital currency. Now, the other thing that people probably are not aware of is how the World Economic Forum is planning the introduction of a one world government. And you mentioned the Democratic Alliance and their involvement with the New World Order. It's interesting because last year the Democratic Alliance got 80 million rand, 80 million rand from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who are obviously involved in the vaccine rollout. And the first thing that Alan Wine did after that happened is he said, we're going to make it mandatory for children in schools to have the COVID jab. Now, if that's not a compromised political party, I don't know what is. What are your thoughts on the influence of outside parties from around the world in South Africa and how they are changing things for people in South Africa in a very negative way?
Well, that is definitely a true thing. South Africa at this moment, and it was so in the past as well, we are in a way a pallbearer for what is to come in the world. For instance, if you look at what happened, we were the first to go under a government as the ANC, and that's happening worldwide at this moment, where a democratic government, democratically elected by the majority. But the majority of people aren't thinking. It's only a small amount of people that are really are capable of choosing a government. And you can manipulate the majority. And that's exactly what is happening worldwide at this moment. And they're using the media for that. They're using every means to their disposal. If it is social media, I think social media is being used in a big way at this moment to ready us for what is happening. And we can talk about George Soros here. We can, okay, he's dead now, but his
He's not
son has
dead.
taken over his business.
George is
He's not dead.
he's still alive. Yeah, he's all he's done is he's named his heir, which is Alexander Soros, who's apparently like two peas in a pod when it comes to their politics. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. I thought he was deceased. So the main thing is it's a few elite elected people in this world that are using the masses, and they are using the masses through media and social media and every means to their possibility to their disposal to try and manipulate these masses to do what they want. That's why they are so in love with the idea of democracy, because they can really manipulate a lot of people, and we have seen that in the last couple of years with the COVID thing. It can really be used to their advantage, and there is some nefarious entities in this world at this moment that are looking to South Africa at us and trying to change things so in their favor is definitely so. We can just look at a big rush for Africa again. You know, for instance, did you know, Scott, that the sixth largest shale gas reserves in the world was discovered and it is in South Africa. And every farmer body currently are fighting this.
Wow.
And I've been to meetings in the Warden district where currently I've given some money to this, where they're trying to explore gas in the Free State, and they're literally willing to ruin our water and everything. And this is a big thing. In the Karoo Basin, they've already started. That was luckily stopped. I think it was near Knysna, somewhere in the Southern Cape. But yes, okay, they were stopped, but okay, the court cases are ongoing at this moment. So we don't know for how long. But this is the main thing. The world's eyes has turned towards South Africa at this moment. You can just look at China and the West. Now, the West's power at this moment is waning. So there's this big rush from the East, from communist countries to South Africa. And that is not a good thing for South Africa. And we can just look at it's very interesting, the geopolitical situation for me at this moment, because if you look at the ANC, they're actually very much in support of Russia and China, but in a way they're also trying to appease the West.
Yeah.
But we all know traditionally they're actually communists. So they're pro-China and pro-communism. But democracy has worked for the ANC so far. So what if we reach a day someday where the ANC might lose power? Maybe they will shed their democracy shirt and they will put on a full communist red one. That's a real possibility in South Africa, I think, at this moment. And as the West's power is waning worldwide, because South Africa at this moment is trading so much with China and Russia and these countries, I think that the West is losing influence over South Africa. and in the coming years, that can really, in a way, makes it a big difference. So I think the DA is backed by Western forces at this moment, and the Western world, the whole of the Western world, are compromised by a few elites that are really hating us, that are standing up against them. I know your channel was blocked as well, was deleted a while ago.
I've had
That's
a
a
few.
big loss. That is exactly because
I've
we are
had a few
spoken up.
channels taken down off YouTube. Yeah, censorship it's called. Now,
Exactly. So if you talk against them, they will stop you. They
yeah,
have power. They have real power.
yeah, absolutely. And look, I just want to just before we wrap up tonight's discussion, TV. How do people find your project, Die Vaderland? Is that through your Facebook page, or how can they actually find out more?
Okay, so I do have a TikTok account as well, Tewie Wessels, and I also have a Facebook page. So yeah, go and give my Facebook page a follow or my TikTok account a follow, and I usually try to give a mixed messages there, from inspiration to hardcore political views. That is maybe not for everyone, but still worthy to take note of. So I believe we need to fight this war that is currently waged against us on a lot of in a lot of different ways, not just one.
Right.
And I think everybody has a place in it, from the more radical type to the more, I hate the word, so I apologize, conservative type. I hate the word because I do not believe you can take a middle ground. You need to make a choice on what side you stand, but let's say the more conservative type of onslaught that following. So yeah, give my channels a follow, and soon I will, when I'm taking off, I will definitely let everybody know, and I will make a video, and hopefully it will go viral.
Well, look, I've got a suggestion. If you would like to participate, because I think the idea of generating income for people in South Africa, anything like that, is obviously a really good thing. We've got our own platform, and we've actually got probably about half a dozen co-presenters on Loving Life TV, and they vary from a lady who's got the most beautiful speaking voice. She speaks in Afrikaans, and she's talking about the Boer War, and she gives these recitals, and they're very popular. And then we've got this lady who's 68 years old in KZN, who's basically a victim of the liquidators, and she's now bankrupt, and she's having a really tough time. And every week we put up one of her videos which talks about the struggles she's having in South Africa as an elderly lady. And then we've got Sina van Rensburg. We got readings from his book, and his prophecies and stuff like that. So we got a range of stuff. We got Dr. Rapiti, who's one of those outspoken doctors when it came to what happened a couple of years ago. So there's a range of different people that participate on lovinglifetv.com, looking at life from different ways. Now, what I'm suggesting is that if you're interested, we could once a week get one of your videos and put it up on Loving Life TV, which would give you a new audience. And do you do them just in Afrikaans, which is your mother language, or do you do them in English as well?
I sometimes do them in English, although the last couple of months I've been more focused in Afrikaans.
Yeah.
But definitely, if the audience is more English, I can do them in English.
Well, maybe you can sort of do a mix of English and Afrikaans, and but look, we'll talk about that separately, because what we're trying to do is to get a range of different perspectives on life in South Africa, which I think is very valuable, because it'll be part of history in the future. People will be able to look back at these times and see what was going on. Alrighty, TV, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And is there anything you'd like to say to the audience just before we wrap up here?
Well, be the change that you want to see. If you do not change, nothing will change. You cannot expect everything else to change around you, the situation, South Africa, everything, the government, anything, if you do not change. And that is something that I think a lot of people are not realizing at this moment. So yeah, my message is be the change you want to see. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that you have me on the show. Yeah, it's a great show, and thanks for the work that you are doing.
Thank you very much, Tewie. And look, you have a great evening. And I'm going to go out with a song I think you'll love. It's one of our theme songs, and it's by Winston Coetzee, who's an amazingly talented fellow. He's a singer, and it's called Hier bly ek boer, and you can get the thrust from the title, what it's all about. But it's a great song. I'm going to go out with that one. I just want to thank the moderators for looking after the side chat, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Please do register on lovinglifetv.com because we've got a really, really exciting platform there which is not censored by YouTube. That's why we've got our own platform, by the way, because I was just tired of being censored by YouTube. Okay, take care, TV, and have a great evening.
You too. Enjoy your day. I know it's morning there on your side. Enjoy it.
It's just to be clear, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning here, or 5:30 in the morning. All right, mate. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
I feel like a farmer sometimes. All right, guys. All right, guys. That was TV Wessels, and we're going to wrap up this live stream with Hier bly ek boer. Have a great evening, and don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we'll have another live stream on a different topic with a different guest. Here we go.
Meer as 61,000 van ons voorvaders het op die grens van ons gesterwe, so ons vry kan wees. Die is my land, die is my reg, hier is ek boer. Van stof is ek gemaak en sal ek terugkeer. Die Bybel is die woord waaruit ek leer, soos die grond op die aarde. Hier bly ek boer. So diep in die nacht sal die vyand kom, maar hier bly ek staan en ek draai nie om, want jy maak my nie bang nie. Hier bly ek boer. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voer. Hier bly ek boer. Soos blaassam in die somer wat vreugde bring, my opa wat maniekie roek kon sing, soos hy stap deur die lande, hier was hy boer. My wortels lê diep in die grond geplant, my siel soos my pa los ek vir jou die land, en jy hoef nie te vrees nie, hier sal jy boer. My land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. die lief sal kom, 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 die lief sal kom.